Hello! Welcome to the stream. Welcome to Riv Rider's 6-week figure drawing workshop. I am Riv Rider. I'm this little thing that pops up in the corner. It lights up. I hope everybody here. Hello, chat. They're saying hello, streamer. Hello, chat. So, here is my figure drawing workshop. To begin with, let's head on to the next slide. I hope you all enjoy my evergreen topical starting slide. Let's get on into it. Let's move me away. Let's move me away just a little bit because of the information visible. All right, yeah, this will do. So, what's figure drawing? Figure drawing, by definition, is a drawing of the human form in various shapes and postures using any drawing media. Through the study of figure drawing, we improve our understanding of the ideal human form, how it moves, and how to shape it from imagination. So what I have here is just an example of figure drawing. If you've been following me on social media, you may have seen me use this a lot. But figure drawing is basically just understanding how to draw a person, how to draw the underlying structure underneath, so that you can get a real being out of it, whether it's cartoony or whether it is realistic. So, moving on to the next slide, let's talk about figure drawing versus gesture drawing. So, figure drawing specifically refers to anatomical accuracy, whereas gesture drawing, I'm sorry, I'm going to be speaking off of the slideshow. Gesture drawing foregoes staying strictly about anatomical accuracy. You'll learn to see motion expressed in straight, curving, or swirling lines when you study the gesture of a pose. And it's through gesture that we bring a body to life. It's a combination of anatomical figure drawing studies that creates lifelike work. And pardon me, looking at my notes again. So, on to the next slide. Here's a big long spiel about something that I think is very, very interesting. Sorry, we're starting off with the most boring things ever for this workshop, aren't we? But it's not boring, I swear to God. Anyway, so what I have here are two portraits. Two portraits of Niccolo Paganini, by Eugene Delacroix and Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres. I might have pronounced those names wrong. But these are two guys from the 1800s. They hated each other. Because they both subscribed to different schools of study, basically. In the Renaissance, Disengo refers to Florentine artists. Well, it originates from Florence, Italy. Basically, they decided the way to be a proper artist is to study the crap out of life, make it all as realistic as possible, be as natural as possible. That's a key word, naturalism, not always necessarily realism, but by studying life and all the things around it, you produce, their idea of art was that art was very natural. Art was realistic. Art resembled life. Whereas Colorito has its origins from Venice because, you can't really paint with oils very well in such a moist environment. Artists and also, you can't exactly spend forever sketching, drawing, and iterating on everything that you do. So Colorito's main principles have to do with energy and spirit rather than accuracy. And, they achieved that through color. Venetian artists generally tended to believe they could color way better than anyone from Florence. And that sort of beef continued, honestly, even well into today. You might think, how antiquated for people to think there's only one way to do art, But no. Even if you look back as early as, not even as early, as soon as, you can look at comics actually for a very, very good demonstration of Disengo versus Colorito. You had people drawing idealistic figures for, say, like classic Marvel and DC comics. But as time went on, people started to stylize more and more. You can see this very clearly. I'm sorry I don't have it in my slide. I didn't have time to get an appropriate image. Crazy to say I didn't have enough time for a workshop that I was preparing several weeks for, but actually let's take a quick detour. Whoa, don't worry about that yet. I was afraid that was the next slide over. Let's take a quick detour onto my browser, onto a browser capture. This is not anything. This is not anything, actually. We're going to get out of this. Whoops. Hold on. Hold the phone. All right, hold on. We're going to look up DC Comics. We're going to look up photo traced covers. This still happened. This is plagiarism. This is not accurate. This is not what I'm talking about. There used to be, in the 60s, thereabout, DC Comics, 60s covers. They used to draw covers basically directly from life, using idealized, like, models and such. 70s covers. How far do I have to go to find what I am thinking of? I don't really know how far I have to go. Ooh, it's really scuffed. Sorry. This is what happens when we're not as prepared as we should be. But the long story short of all of that, why I'm bringing it up in relation to figure drawing. Figure drawing is about realism, proportion, idealized figures. Gesture drawing is about capturing the motion and the spirit of a pose to make it more lifelike. So what we intend to do in this workshop is to combine the qualities of Disengo and Colorito. Why did I put these two photos in the way they are? This is, oops, sorry. This is Disengo. This is, sorry. Oh, you can see my cursor. Good. This is Colorito. But we're going to be combining both of those qualities in the following workshop. So, there's the boring technical aspects of this stream covered. Let's get into why would you ever bother learning from me? So we've established ethos. Let's establish a little more credibility to my name here. Current topic. Oh, that's still there. Today's lesson. It's all scuffed. I'm sorry. Chat says, you learn from me because I'm a Chad Sigma. That's correct. But also, I'd like to establish for anyone who is new to the stream, new to watching these VODs, I am in actuality a college professor. I try to keep my real life and my online life very separate, but in this instance, it is good to know I did in fact go to college for graphic design. And I am presently a student in graphic design. But again, I am presently a college professor. I've had 7 years of work experience as a one-on-one college tutor. So if there's anyone uniquely qualified to understand the teaching perspective and the student perspective, I think that's me. I think I'm more than qualified for being up to the task of teaching a bunch of people on the internet what there is about my passion. Graphic design? No. Teaching. We're going to learn figure drawing in this stream. So So I wrote down a tiny little script to follow. I'm doing a very bad job of following. However, right, that's right. So aside from, my professional credentials, I am a college professor. Trust? I'm not getting out all of those things because it's the internet. You should have a little bit of privacy to your identity. But the other reason why you can trust me in what I'm going to talk about. Very humble. I'm a very humble artist who draws a lot of things. And what I have here, these are some of my favorite pieces within the last few years. These two originate from this year, but my work comes about because I learned figure drawing in college. What I learned in that class changed me forever. But a lot of my experience comes from training, learning, and practicing all of my life. I just can't imagine a world where I'm not drawing. So, if you're watching a workshop on how to draw, ideally the person you're learning from knows how to draw and likes to draw. So, once again, the big reason I want to hold this workshop for the next 6 weeks is because college figure drawing changed my life forever. Prior to this, I was self-taught, just entirely based on internet resources. I had zero idea how to truly refine what I was doing, and I didn't have that many peers at the time that I could call upon to improve how to draw. It was only after I committed to taking a class and really, really engaging with it that I started truly improving and finally learned how to see the world around me, that I could use that world to express what I imagine in my head. That's the most important part here. You learn from life to draw from your head, from your mind. So, if you haven't clicked out of the video in the last 10 minutes or so, let's get into a few aspects specifically that this workshop will be about. Just to settle this once again, this workshop is not meant to teach you extreme realism. I know I mentioned that's what this is about, figure drawing, but we only have 6 weeks and I can't go into that much detail. This course is aimed primarily at beginners to give them a strong starting foundation for how to draw, but if you still like a stronger foundation, you want to hear out from another artist how they view the world and maybe pick up a few tricks for yourself on how you can improve your art, maybe stick around. I'm not making you pay for anything, really. I highly suggest, if you're going to work along with the workshop, you should take notes on physical paper and use a pencil. Digital tools are fine. You can use a drawing tablet. You can use your drawing program if you so wish, but I believe physical media helps teach you finer art motor controls. In my opinion, we'll be going over a few things related to that later. This is for beginners. Please use pencil and paper. It's fine if you want to use digital resources, but I highly recommend being able to take notes with what I'm going to go over here. So this workshop will meet twice a week, on Monday and Thursday. Very odd days, I know, but I kept my Wednesday open for something. And I think in the long term, people having just 3 days for a free online course is probably enough time to belt out your homework 4 hours before stream starts. But those are the days we'll meet. We'll meet around this time every week as well. From this point on, instead of, having an opening, just like how you did it in college, yes. Sorry. I'm going to skip forward just a little bit. I'm not always going to respond to chat because I want to treat this more like a classroom where I'm kind of just lecturing and releasing information into the world. And then I'll have spots where I stop and address chat directly to answer some questions. These VODs basically go straight to YouTube, and I don't really want to clog up an already long lecture with too many random responses to chat. So I'm going to ignore that raised hand because I know it's definitely going to be a joke. So, once again, we'll meet twice a week. The opening segment will be dedicated to reviewing the assignment that I give you all at the end of a stream. And then we'll move on to the actual lesson of the day. And then it will conclude by giving another assignment. This week is sort of a test for how I'll handle audience participation. And if the response is high in volume, I might have to pay gate feedback through Patreon, through a new Patreon tier. But otherwise, will always be a free course. You'd otherwise just be paying me for consulting your homework and giving you feedback on how to improve as an artist. If I do that, but only if I do that. Another thing about the workshop is that by watching this workshop, we all must agree I am not a perfect artist. There are things I might get wrong, and if you're a more experienced artist participating in this course, you're completely free to discuss with me aspects of my lessons that might seem incorrect. If you watch something else and another artist appears to contradict me, consider it more of differing opinions in how art should be perceived. I have my ways of art, they have theirs. What I particularly aim to do is just give people a strong starting foundation for how they can begin approaching art. Not necessarily how to make art like me. I don't want you to make art exactly like me. I just want you to flourish and, learn how to do things on your own. So that's about everything from my starting spiel that I had ready. I guess now I'll take a few questions from chat, if there are any, regarding what's ahead of us. And the streams will generally, I'm trying to aim for about an hour and a half to 2 of general time spent on them. It could go a little longer, it could go a little shorter, depending on the day. But again, if there are any questions, any real questions I can answer, I'm free to feel free to ask. I'll be here to answer. Okay. So it seems. Sensei, I'm severely hoping this doesn't disrupt too much, but I'm pretty sure I'm working on all the days we're on. Well, that's quite unfortunate. I'm so sorry. But again, this is why we have VODs. I'm going to save a VOD. I'm going to export it to YouTube pretty much right after the stream is finished. And I'm really, really hoping that I'm allowed to upload a video longer than 15 minutes to YouTube. I thought that changed into a universal standard. But if it takes a little bit of time for that to come on, then we'll see what happens. But there will be VODs. VODs will be saved for each class session. Gotta leave right at the tail end of class. Well, make sure you check the VOD. Uploaded VODs to brand new channels before. Oh, hey, works out. So, even if you leave right at the tail end of class, just remember to come back to the VOD, check out the assignment for the next 3 days, and then be ready to come back on Thursday. Well, this is being aired on a Monday, so on the next class session, ideally having done the lesson that's been instructed. So, if there are no other questions, let's get down into let's get where is everything actually? Where is this? All right. So, here's our main learning workspace. It's Clip Studio Paint. I work in Clip Studio Paint. It is where a lot of our work is going to take place. So, for our very first lesson, we're going to change the topic. What is figure drawing? We've established what figure drawing is. Next up, we are going to focus on the building blocks of art. Rather, of figures. Let's go with that. So, you might have walked into this workshop, walked into this stream thinking, I want to draw my OC. I want to draw anime characters. I want pictures of Spider-Man. No! We can't start there. Shapes are the building blocks of art. I accidentally closed my notepad. Shapes are the building blocks of art. Everything in art, everything you see in the world around you is either a is either a square, a circle, or a triangle. And from there, those building blocks become three-dimensional. We can get a sphere. We can get a box. We can get a pyramid. And any other combination of these shapes. We could get a cylinder. We could get a cone. We can get whatever this thing is. We can get a box stretching off into the horizon. So, you might think to yourself, golly, impossible, no way, everything is made of shapes? You bet your bottom buck, Buster. People are made of shapes. Here is a standard figure drawing. I'm making this up as I go, but just know, people, they are made of shapes. You are made of nothing but boxes, cubes, and cylinders, and the occasional triangle. People are made of shapes. This is not a good figure. Animals are made of shapes as well. Fucked up, right? I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't be so casual. But animals are also made of shapes. You want to draw a dog? A dog is nothing but a circle and a cheese grater looking rectangle. And triangles and pyramids. It's all nothing but shapes and curving boxes and circles. Lots and lots of circles. It's all combinations of several different shapes. And say you wanted to draw vehicles, or robots, or buildings, or plants. Buddy, those especially are absolutely shapes. To do this, to draw a box on wheels, cars, gotta learn shapes. To draw mechas, you gotta learn shapes. Pretty bad. If you want to draw buildings, if you want to draw anything, the starting point are shapes. Shapes in 3 dimensions. So, not this shape in 3 dimensions. We got to talk about shapes in perspective. We're going to be talking, for our first lesson, about 1-point, 2-point, and 3-point perspective. So, feel free, this is the point now where I would like it if you took notes. If you're not already intimate with this, at the very least, definitely draw along with where we're going here. It's good for practice. So, let's talk about 1-point perspective. I should write that in full. 1-point perspective. So, perspective is everyone's worst enemy in art. We all claim to not understand perspective, but we do. Or at least you're going to. So in order to start with perspective, we got to start with a horizon line. Let's use a straight line for that one. A horizon line. The horizon line is the distant point upon which lines travel to meet their end. They'll meet at horizon point. So for 1 point perspective, you can place your horizon point at any one section, and this just basically means all of your lines must go towards this point. These are called orthogonals, by the way. So this is the basics of 1 point perspective. Everything goes towards 1 point. But the entirety of life is not built on 1 point. There is more than that. 2 point perspective. How do I spell orthogonal? Good question. Chat has helped, but I will spell it out because it's fun trivia. Orthogonal. So, 2 point perspective basically means we'll take our horizon line and we'll plunk down 2 horizon points. I might be using the wrong term there, honestly. I'm so well prepared for this. But with your two points down on the horizon, this basically means every line, every orthogonal recedes to these 2 points. And they lie on the horizon line. That's the most important part here. So this is the basics of 2 point perspective. Everything recedes to these 2 sections. That's the most basic principle. Now let's get into 3 point perspective. You're learning all 3 of these today. All 3 dimensions. 3 point perspective. So once again, we've got our horizon line. We've got our 2 horizon points, but 3 point perspective mixes with a 3rd point, either high above or high below. And in addition to trailing off into the distance here, these lines connect to each other. So everything can recede to there. Everything tends to go up towards this 1 point. That's 3 point perspective. 2 points on the horizon line and another point high above that calls to the vertical, as high up as everything goes. And the way we start to apply shapes to this perspective is a very basic study that anyone can do at any time. Let's start over. Let's get the horizon line. All you need to do, all you need to know, all you need to remember too. So we've got our horizon line, horizon point. Everything below the horizon line, you're seeing from above. Everything above the horizon line, you're seeing the bottom of it. So you gotta remember those two traits when doing perspective. And if you want to practice your perspective, it's as simple as making a point and plunking a shape down into here. So let's take the humble square and place it below the horizon line. Now you can trail your lines back towards this focal point. Focal point. That's the right word. I'm so sorry. And you can decide how much depth it has by leading it to this horizon point. To the horizon. To the focal point. Foci for plural. Sure. And this is how you create depth. This is how you create depth at a very, very simple level. And all you need to do is to create a vertical and a horizontal line to cut it off. And that's how you create a box in perspective. And you keep this up basically throughout the entirety of the practice sheet that you're doing it on. Just remember, at 1 point perspective, these are basically just vertical and horizontal lines. And you can do this for multiple things. Let's say you want to do it to a circle to create a cylinder. Just make a smaller cell. Well, you don't have to do that. That's skipping a step. That's a little more advanced. We start at a circle, and you just draw a line from one edge to the other, rather from the edge to the focal point. Then you just draw another circle within those lines. And as it turns out, this is the basics of foreshortening as well. That's how you create a foreshortened shape in perspective. So let's make a triangle. As it turns out, when you make a triangle in 3 dimensions, you tend to make a pyramid. So that's 1 point perspective. This is something I want. This is the basics of perspective. Everyone should master this. Now let's do 2 point perspective in practice. So again, two focal points on your horizon. Every line goes towards these 2 points. So now, even if I made a square in the dead center here, and I wanted it to be in dimension, well, it's smack dab in the middle. Does it not look like this? Wrong. Doesn't necessarily have to look like that. You can judge how much depth you actually really see, how much of this top plane you see, just by drawing. I flipped my canvas, by the way. This is a power given to me by digital tools. By bringing those 2 ends to the focal point. So you'll see it's not necessarily this. This is in fact probably not correct, or it could be actually correct. If we draw this line out here. No, we're trying to keep things. maybe that is correct actually. So that helps you create more perspective behind what you're doing. But more commonly, you'll see that even if we plunk down a flat square looking straight at us, we're still going to be obeying the laws of perspective here. Maybe it looks like this. Maybe that's how much of that top plane you see. It's a little bit curved off. And it's not perfect. It's not completely perfect. But more typically, you would see 2 point perspective employed in this sort of manner, where the shape meets more like this. 2 point perspective helps build more of a dynamic shape. So say we do this. This is how we create a square in perspective. If you want to look at it another way, this is how you create rows of buildings at a street corner. If you are so inclined to think of it like that. And say maybe this goes right here. And would you look at that? We've made 3 point perspective entirely by accident, but that's just what happens when you see these 2 intersecting lines come about on each other. Pardon me. reviewing my notes, reviewing my plans for where I go after this. All right, so these are the basics of perspective. Make sure to remember how to do these, because what I'm going to ask everyone to do after this, we've only been going for 40 minutes. It's crazy. What I want to see everyone do some practice with basic perspective on your own. Practice 1-point perspective. Plunk your points down. Practice 1-point, 2-point, 3-point perspective. Try things out. Try drawing just the basic box shape in perspective. Try out drawing a circle receding towards these points. Just keep in mind, shapes aren't necessarily always going to the same exact point, only if it's meant to look like that. So this is a basic exercise. You can try at any time. Let's not get too crazy here. You can keep your exercise as simple as this. You can, even if you want to be even more creative, feel free to go nuts with some of your shapes if you really, really, really want to. This is entirely just to feel out how shapes in perspective can be made. But the main thing that I want people to leave this first session with is that I want people to view the world around them and break it down into perspective, or rather into shapes in perspective. So I'm going to go grab an image. I'm going to go grab a generic image off of the internet so that I can demonstrate exactly what I'm expecting out of people here. Ideally, you're looking at things in your own life, but you can easily turn to stock photo websites if you're a bit lacking in in reality to study from. So let's take, this is an assignment I took in college myself. We'd take an animal and we would try to break that down into as many basic shapes as we can. Ideally a more naturalized sort of photo. So I'm going to take, I vaguely recall using a photo of a pig for for this practice. And what I want you to do, you are not to trace over it and figure out where the shapes are. You are to look at reality. Look at your photo, look at your subject, and break it down into the shapes that you see. The shapes that you see it is made out of. So in this case, we can break it down into squares, flat squares, squares that are as thin as paper. Maybe this is a box. Maybe it's actually a loaf. Here's a big circle for this pig's belly. Maybe we represent this shoulder hinge with a sphere and a cylinder. And I want you to do this for at least 3 subjects. Fill out a page practicing 1 point, 2 point, 3 point perspective, but also find 3 subjects, ideally in your daily life, that you are breaking down into nothing but shapes. It was kind of a bad kind of a bad example. I'm not gonna lie. We can do better. But you'll see that like shapes are really everywhere. Even if you just take a look at maybe your bedroom. This pig doesn't appear to have any legs. You're right, chat. If you were to peer even just around your bedroom, you'll find that there is probably a lot of perspective to be beheld inside of it. An average bedroom might be host to, shapes such as a bunch of rectangles for your bed. And ideally, you're tracking these in perspective. But I'm not asking you to do scenery. I'm not asking you to do environments. I'm asking you to do real life figures of sorts. See what sort of shapes are in live animals. Actually, yeah, we'll limit it to live animals. Live animals or other things in your life. We could say practice this horse. Let's try and break down a horse into nothing but shapes. A horse? Well, this is again not the most ideal subject because it's looking straight on. But you'll see, a horse is nothing but squares. Nothing but squares and triangles. Squares and triangles and rectangles. You got to be able to look at your world through the lens of those key shapes. Did you know there is this weird thingy on the hooves? Is this natural? That's crazy. I did not notice that until just now. Yes. Try and grab photos of more dynamic more dynamic photos than this that illustrate just how things are made. Rather, demonstrates it in a way that lets you practice shapes in 3 dimensions as well. Once again, you're just looking at the photo that you've got ahead of you, and you're breaking it down as well as you can into shapes. And you don't have to bust out the perspective grid every single time for every single little thing. I'm just asking you to raw dog it as well as you can, because this is purely for practice. Just being able to look at the world. I'm on a repeating record here. But I can't stress enough how important it is to look at your world in terms of shapes. So I was about to draw a back. You can't really see its back. In fact, it's actually really, really hard to tell because it's such a spherical body. All the same, that's just more reason to learn how to draw things in shapes. It's all cylindrical. So horses are quite mysterious beings. But this is the sort of thing this, like, if you're ever lost, if you ever start to think like, what am I doing? Just do this. Do nothing but look at your photo that you've selected. Break it down into these shapes. Chat says you've got your 3 animals. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Spend the next few days getting that practice out. And I'll put out another post for everyone to reply to if they would like to prove that they are they are working along with the workshop. And I'll have you know, this sucks. This study I did, it sucks. It is not paying attention to the motion at all of what is going on in here. But it's okay. Because I'm not expecting... Well, maybe you are expecting perfection from me, but you already agreed to not expect perfection from me. I'm not expecting perfection from you either, as you take this course. I just want to see a willingness to learn, a willingness to grasp what is being shown. Non-perfection is part of the TOS. Oh no. So let's get down. Let's write down exactly what there was a lot less in what was in today's session than I expected. I was a little bit nervous, I'll be real, about making sure all this was coming through clearly. And I'm just like, oh, there really wasn't that much to pack into the starting lesson. This is as basic as it gets. This is as baby steps as it could possibly be. Maybe I was underestimating how much people could take in. It's just syllabus week. Today's the easiest day. This is true, chat. This is quite true. Local chatter. Syllabus day is usually the easiest. I didn't want to pack you all in with too much. This still feels like quite a bit. Quite too little, honestly. But homework due Thursday. One page of 1 page each. 1 point, 2 point, 3 point perspective. 3 studies of different animals. It's going off screen, isn't it? Of three studies of different animals broken down into spheres, boxes, cones, etc. And where did that land? A little bit outside the mark, but you get the idea. Shapes are our friend. So wow, we're already done. So that was the gist of this week's lesson. Not this week's, of today's lesson. Are there any questions I can answer? Any feedback you'd like to give? Because I know it was quite scuffed. There was a lot less to cover than I expected. I may have been a little bit panicked with how close to the wire I was preparing my material. It feels a lot more informal than I intended. Put that horse study out of its misery. True. Goodbye, Old Yeller. No. Old Yeller's a dog. So 1 animal each for... No. Yes, I want you to do 1 page... Like, the perspective study is separate from the animal study. I want you to practice doing 1 point, 2 point, 3 point perspective separate. And I want you to then separately study 3 different animals and break them down into their parts, so to speak. I'm not forcing you to figure out the perspective of everything here. Do your best to comprehend what the hell is going on here. Chat says, did a lot of perspective studies in a sketchbook when you started out. Good. Good, good, good. Always love to hear that. There are some things in life that are not immediately apparent. Exactly whether we're seeing the top of a tip or the bottom of a tip, don't worry too much about fine details. We're not about fine details yet. We're about big shapes. I want you to look at nothing but big shapes. And now I'm cheating by just drawing right over it. Again, please do not just draw directly on top of the photos that you pick. Do it off to the side. And submit to me those 3 separate pages of perspective. And most social media only really lets you reply with 4 images at once. So you can plaster, all 3 of your animals and then the animal study onto 1 page if you'd like. Most social media, aka X and Blue Sky. Yeah. Yeah. It's also just the easiest way to respond to, the direct thingies. Plenty of programs turn multiple pictures into 1. This is true! Do it in the software of your choice. If the software of your choice is actually pen and paper, definitely, that's like way better, in all honesty. Just remember to find some way to edit on a picture of the animal that you're using. Tumblr now uses like 30 image uploads. That's crazy to think about. Honestly, using Tumblr is probably not a bad idea. No scuff screenshots of paper. I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to that if you really want to show it off. Because I just like seeing proof that people are working, people are engaged. That's what I want to see. I picked a horse because I thought the legs would have a lot of really funny, geometry involved in them, and now it's just kind of like, man, horses are so weird. But look, triangles. So that's the basic assignment. Again, any other questions, any other feedback you guys have about how this went today? I'm kind of just filling the air with because it just doesn't feel right that this is literally all there is to stream. Chat says, can I go to the bathroom? No. Next question. Chat assures me it's okay for first class to be shorter. Alright then. That's the case. If everyone understands their assignment, meet me back here, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Thursday. And I'll see you all then. I will also be doing the assignment with everybody, so we all have something to learn from here. Is that, Sensei isn't slacking as well. All right. All right. Thanks for dropping by. Have a good evening, all the rest of you. Bye.